Thanks for the water.
What's that, idle hands in the devil's playground?
Okay, thank you for coming this morning. Good morning to you all. Welcome to the Cone Room. Usually we're downstairs, but due to the special election on the 21st, they're setting up the machines, and so we're up here. And to get started here, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, just the first one?
Yes.
Can we move this thing over that way a little bit? Does it have to be here?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Because it's hard for everybody to see the board. How about that? Is that good?
Perfect.
Good?
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. We have second item is the approval of minutes for the regular Board of Selectmen meeting on December 12th and of the special meeting afterwards. Is there a motion to approve?
So, can I just make a comment before we
Sure.
make the motion to move? Are these on? Yeah. I had indicated in the approval that there were a couple of dates that needed to be modified, and my vote was subject to the understanding that we were going to be discussing that. It's not reflected in the minutes. I'd like the minutes to reflect the fact that there were a couple of dates to be changed based on scheduling, since the schedule was put together before the board was elected.
Mhm.
And subject to that change being made, I will move the minutes.
Discussion?
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're
That was
approved.
for the December 12th
Yes.
minutes.
And then on the December, I put them together.
Yes.
On the 20th?
Motion to approve the minutes from December 20th.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. First Selectmen updates, item 3. A lot of you already know that we decided to begin holding Board of Selectmen workshops once a week, for a couple reasons, to get us to be able to meet more often and update each other on proposals, work together more, give us more time together, give you all another crack at us, including you, Ken. So in addition to these 2 regular meetings, it's a way for us to meet, and because we want to meet after, beyond those 2 meetings. It's, Jill and I want to meet. We're in 2 different parties. We have to publicly notice it. So it kind of, shackles us a little bit as far as, being able to work and coordinate. So I think it's going to work out well. We had people show up ready to the first few, and I think it'll. I talked to CCM yesterday, and we were going back and forth. They asked us what we were doing, and they'd never heard of that, and they loved it. They may even highlight it in their magazine, so their newsletter. So that's working. It's Mondays at 11:30. We've already noticed them, and if one of us can't make it, they could still go on. If we have to cancel it, we will notice that too. We also have the e-blast. Again, if you go to the weekly e-blast, if you go on the First Selectmen's webpage in the right-hand corner, there's a link to that if you want to sign up. I think we're up to like a little over 28,000 emails. And if you have anything, I see some department heads here. If you want to put something in that, just let us know on Thursdays, and we'll get it in that e-blast. We're continuing our meetings with the various department heads regarding the budget. The capital improvement program public hearing is tonight at 6 in this room. Hopefully I'll see you, a bunch of you there tonight. Town was giving the town's bond rating. We're going to sell $90 million in 5-year GO bonds, general obligation, and 1-year bands. The anticipation notes. We financed $40 million, the GO bonds, for an interest rate of 0.823566%. Got that, Ken? Oh, yeah. With a $4,922,400 premium, resulting in a 5% coupon. We also financed $50 million in bonds for 1 year at 0.891620%. The 5-year bonds came in lower than the rate for the 1-year note. That was this week. We are going to interview the third and final candidate for the purchasing director later today. We've interviewed 2 already. We anticipate having a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen in the very near future on that. I will be commencing public safety meetings once a month with the Chief of Police, the Fire Chief, the head of GEMS, and Dan Orzoa to stay on top of all matters concerning public safety, especially in light of what's been going on, both internationally and nationally and in the region. Our first meeting is next week. We will do that. We're also stepped up patrols of houses of worship in light of the incidents in New York, and we'll thank you to the Greenwich Police Department for doing that. And we are on top of it, and just ask people to be vigilant, and saying if you see something, say something. Let's see. I think that's it for me for now. I want to go to the Selectmen's updates. I'll start on my right. Lauren Rabin.
Thanks, Fred. Good morning, everyone. I'll keep it to 3 items, and just piggybacking on our meeting in December, we want to focus meeting with some of the boards and commissions, and we're going to do that in our workshop working session style on Mondays. So there are actually 41 either neighborhood associations, board, commissions, or committees that exist in the town. And working with my colleagues, I've made a sort of a draft prioritization as to who we'll start to invite to our workshops and working sessions. Some of the association meetings will go to those. There's a couple coming up in January that we know of, so anybody who's out there watching, listening, and you're from a neighborhood association, let us know when your meetings are. So the Pembroke Glenville Association, January 22nd, the Riverside, January 23rd, and the Byram Neighborhood Association on January 27th. So amongst the 3 of us, we're going to try to participate in those neighborhood meetings. Fred mentioned the CCM. For those of you who don't know what that stands for, I didn't know what it stood for, Connecticut Conferences of Municipalities. They have a training this Saturday for newly elected first selectmen, mayors, selectmen, et cetera, that I'll be attending. I'll be driving all the way to Cromwell, Connecticut, to learn about the fundamentals of municipal budgeting, FOI, and the fundamentals of municipal government. I think we all have our experience in municipal government, so it'll be a good opportunity to network. It's a sold-out workshop, and they're going to focus on updates to the state budget, the 2020 General Assembly forecast, and how to deal with unfunded state mandates. So, Fred, I know you probably have a lot of experience with your past history, but it'll be nice to network with other municipalities. And finally, the third thing that I'm focusing on is I am going to be part of the committee that's going to establish the KPIs, key performance indicators or metrics for the POCD, Planning of Conservation and Development, that was passed by the RTM in December.
Thank you, Selectman Rabin. Appreciate that. Selectperson Oberlander.
The nomenclature. Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. This is our second official full board meeting, and it's been a great time and learning curve for the Board of Selectmen generally on some of the issues. And so the thing that I've been focusing most on over the past month is starting to get the Environmental and Sustainability and Enhancement Committee up and running, trying to do some brainstorming about purpose and mission, and starting to target some easy to implement, low cost, yet high value projects that we can propose as part of this upcoming budget or even as an initial pilot. One of the discussions that we've been having is on electric vehicle charging stations, and it's still in the very preliminary stages, but hopefully over the next couple of weeks before the either before the budget gets presented or in the budget process, we'll have a proposal to make on how to start a pilot project to get electric vehicle charging stations in town, and really exciting stuff. A lot of very energetic and motivated community members have been involved on these issues for a long time, and we're starting to work with the Environmental Affairs Department as well to try to pull it all together and see what we can do. We've got some targeted goals before April, before Earth Day, and hopefully, but we're still in the very preliminary stages. That's been the startup. As we move into going to, in addition to the environmental and enhancement issues, start to look at some of the business issues, economic development issues, now that we're in January, time to pick that up again. All of this will improve our vitality and vibrancy in town and meet some of the needs of our residents and our commercial establishments.
Thank you, Jill. I would say it's been a great start to this board, and it's an honor to work with these two. They roll up their sleeves, and I have to keep up with them. So thank you very much. And before we go to old business, I want to say hi to former Selectman John Toner and congratulate you on being this year's Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Chief Hebe, we were talking about that, and before I could even start talking about you, he says, "Don't even think about it, Camilla. You got no shot." So, and he's right. But anyway, looking forward to marching with you, John. It's well deserved. Well deserved. Old business. Joe Siciliano, on the Director of Parks and Rec, on the fee schedule for this year. Welcome, Joe.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. As I said back in December, our goal today is we get the fee schedule passed so that we can apply that to next 2020 applications for programs, cards, et cetera, et cetera. Since our last meeting, we met at the workshop and had some further discussion. Selectwoman Overlander sent us some questions. We answered in writing and distributed to the whole board. Selectwoman Raven sent us a question about upgrading some of our capabilities at the skating rink, and we took that to heart, and that's in the process right now. So we tried to accommodate most of the questions, both in writing and or in verbally. Haven't really received much feedback from the public. There was one comment from Peter Berg about, how we sell tickets at the Civic Center. One of the things that's really missing from that is that we do sell them online. Our guest passes or our day passes for the beaches are sold online 24 hours a day to residents. So you don't have to. Peter will not have to wait in line, and he can just go right online. And he can print them out, or he can attach them to his phone app, and he can show them at the gate, and they'll do. So I'll make sure Peter understands that, but it wasn't. It was just a thought process he had on kind of streamlining from the issue of people standing in line at the civic centers. But it's all available right now. It's been in play for at least a year, and the next time I see Peter, I'll just walk him through it. So just as a courtesy, because we try to accommodate the residents, and to make sure that they can purchase a pass to get themselves or a guest in anytime they want, 7 days a week. So works very efficiently, and it does, keep the crowds at the Civic Center down. So generally, it's just the folks who are non-residents purchasing them, or folks that are residents that don't want to go online and do it. The first time through, it's maybe a little tricky, but it's definitely worthwhile exploring. We walk people. If they call and say they can't do it, we walk them through the process right then and there. So once they get set up, they're fine. So this morning, I'd really like to have, if there are any additional comments or maybe some kind of process on how you would like to move through. I mean, there's 19 pages of these fee schedules here. It's your decision on how you'd like to move forward.
I've looked through them. I'm okay with you summarizing, but I would defer to my board here, colleagues, to see what they would like.
So I want to thank you, Director Siciliano. I did have a number of questions on the fee schedule. You answered most of them. The one that remained was the one we took up at the workshop, but I really do appreciate the very quick and thorough response to all of the other questions. I am comfortable with the fee schedule that you proposed, with the exception of the Greenwich Avenue banners that we discussed for the public who weren't at the workshop and didn't read the article discussing the banners. There was some questions that were raised, both on the aesthetics of the banners, the history of the banners, the advertising, or the town's advertising policy or lack thereof, in terms of whether we have a program for advertising, whether it be by nonprofits or otherwise. And even as recently as this morning, I got a question on zoning compliance with regard to the banners. So given that Director Siciliano reported back that this program on the Greenwich Avenue banners has been in place for about a year, that it was initiated.
It's actually been a full year and part of the previous year. As I thought about answering that question last time, we started with a few banners, and then it became more formal last year, and it was part of our fee package last year. The first year, there were no fees involved with putting up a few of the banners.
Right. And since this is a question and a question of public input, I have gotten a couple of comments. I'm going to propose that we defer a vote on the banner fees until we can maybe have more discussion, receive more input from the public, maybe suggest that we invite public comment at if there is any, at one of our future Board of Selectmen meetings, and see where people are and to have an understanding of what we hope to accomplish by an advertising program, whether it be for nonprofits, commercial establishments, otherwise throughout town, have a better understanding of what exactly we're advancing with a banner program. And but otherwise, I'm prepared to move forward with the rest of the fee schedule.
Well, before I comment on that, did you have any more?
I'm prepared to move forward with the fee schedule, and I've thought about, and we have had a lot of dialogue about the banners. I'm comfortable with where we're at with the banners. I know you mentioned that there's already people who are on a wait list to try to get banners.
Yes, what we do is we publicize that if you want to get in the queue, we start taking names after the first of the year. So several people have called, and what we're doing is just cataloging them as the date that they called and the time that they're looking at, and said that, one, until the fee schedule is approved, we can move forward, and two, if there's going to be a further conversation, we'll just keep cataloging them in. So it's really the board's decision on which direction you want to go.
So Joe, could we, I echo Lauren's position on it. I'm okay with it, and I certainly have received a lot of feedback, and it was in the opposite direction. People were saying, we're okay with it. Why are you talking about it now? Is that important? But I think it's okay to have a discussion on it, and I agree with Jill. This will not. Are there people lined up in the next 30 days?
We don't generally put up the first banner until about the middle of March or April 1st, somewhere in there. So
delaying it will not.
No, we'll just what we'll do as good stewards is that we'll keep their calls cataloged so that they don't lose their turn and their inquiry about it until you make a decision on how you want to deal with it. And but we'd need to have that decision in the next 30 days, and that'll be fine.
Yeah,
but we can move forward on the rest of it because that affects our other business. But in fairness to the people that call, we'll keep them in a chronological list, and when the decision's made, either we'll notify them we're going to move forward, or we're not going to move forward, and that's simple enough.
Well, I give you my word. We'll have the decision within 30 days, so we can discuss it some more at the workshops. But for now, is there a motion to accept the fee schedule as is, taking out the banner?
I motion to accept the fee schedule as proposed for the year 2021, with the exception of the banners.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
We will. So what we'll do is we'll publish the fee schedule because that's part of what we do. It'll be online, and the section about the banners there will be no vote on that at this time. Okay.
Yeah, and we will get back within 30 days. We will.
So as we put it in there, we'll say no vote, but unanimous on everything else except for that item is still pending.
And we'll get back to you within.
Is that
30
fine
days.
with the board? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate the work that went into that. Okay, item 6, new business. Deputy Chief Mark Marino.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mark.
Good to see everyone. Happy New Year. Here representing Parking Services, and we have a few items that we'd like to bring forth for consideration. Number one on our list is Pintail Lane, which is in the vicinity of Mallard Drive and not far from Greenwich High School. We received a request from some of the local residents requesting that Pintail be included as part of the residential parking program that we have in place in town. They're basing that request on what they've noticed as what I'll term overflow parking from the Greenwich High School. Seems a number of the other streets in that area restrict parking during the school days and school hours, which is causing students that can't park at the high school to park on Pintail. And it is causing some congestion there. So they submitted, along with their request, a petition which was signed by, I believe, every resident that lives on the street. I think there's 10 of them. And what we're proposing is we do support the request that it become part of the residential parking program. And what we're proposing is that we limit parking to residents with permits only between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Monday through Friday to alleviate the problem. It is a narrow road, and I took a ride through there the other day, and I counted 8 or 9 cars that were parked on the road. So it does cause some congestion on that road. So that is our first request. I don't know if we have any questions on that.
No, I'm very familiar with it and support your position on it.
Okay.
Lauren, select woman, maybe?
I too support the position, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to talk about something connected. I think most people know that I've been talking about traffic, but one of the things when I was leaving the Board of Education, I asked the Board of Education to consider was to redo our policy on how far someone needs to live from the high school in order to get busing. Right now it's 2 miles. And if you think about how long it would take a student to walk, 1.9 miles, that's about at least 30 minutes. And in this day and age, I don't know that most kids have an hour worth of, free time in their schedule. So I know it's not your issue, but I would like us all to think about moving forward, traffic and parking holistically and maybe making a change like that. I realize it might mean more busing, but it saves in other areas. So if we have a more holistic approach, I would definitely want to see that happen. But in the meantime, I 100% approve this.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No. Are you going to ask for votes on each individual or collectively? How you...
However the board wishes to proceed.
I've looked at all 3, and I'm in support of all 3, but if you want to separate them out.
I didn't know how you wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to vote them out.
Now or not?
I was going to vote on all 3 just to save time if everybody was okay with that.
Okay.
So you can proceed to Lafayette.
Our second point on the agenda is the Lafayette parking lot on Lafayette Place. What we're finding is that the parking lot as it stands right now is not really being utilized to its maximum potential. So we've been vacillating as to how we can attract more parkers to that area and try to alleviate some of the parking in that upper part of Greenwich Avenue. Make it more attractive to the employees that work in that area, so we can, again, alleviate some of the shorter-term parking for customers and people that are shopping on Greenwich Avenue, on the upper part of the avenue. So what we're proposing is that we incorporate a section of that parking lot. We're looking at 20 parking spaces, and to make them part of our merchant parking lot program, and have them available for an annual permit and an annual fee. Make it a little more financially attractive to people that work in the area to buy a annual permit and be able to park in there at a somewhat reduced rate as compared to what they're paying on a daily basis to park in that lot.
Will the permit be transferable amongst employees, or is it a business-based permit? How do you plan to administer the permitting?
It would be a hang tag, so if a business wanted to buy a block of permits, they could do that and then issue them to their employees. Absolutely.
And you're anticipating that this is for merchants, not for residents?
I'm sorry?
When you said you want to add it to your merchant parking program, so the acquisition of these permits will be limited to merchants or
No,
employees?
that's in the charter. That's how they're designated as merchant parking lots. But an employee that works in the area can buy it on their own, or a business owner could do it as well.
Could a resident buy the parking permit as well? I mean, is it open? How does
it would be? Yeah, we wouldn't preclude that.
Right. And do you anticipate that there's demand for the 20 spots amongst current employees, or?
I suspect that there will be.
Right.
Yeah, and to the point where we may actually at some point want to increase that number.
Right.
There's a similar program in place at the Soundview parking lot where we designate 75 parking spaces for permits, annual permits, and
Right.
They pretty much almost sell out completely every year.
Right. One of the questions that's been raised before in terms of the pricing of our parking is whether the permit costs cover our operational costs, whether we make a profit from any of the permit sales, and whether that changes the operation from a purely municipal operation, a governmental operation, to a more discretionary operation, and the obligations that go along with it. Have you looked at that at all in terms of the pricing of your permits?
The permit for the train stations parking is a complicated formula. You know, it's a shared revenue with the state. I'm
going to suggest, since I see Amina sitting in the back of the room, that you maybe just touch base with the law department on how you're pricing these permits and tracking the costs of maintaining our lots for governmental purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And third and final point on our agenda is Hamilton Avenue. We got a request from a commercial building owner at 311 Hamilton Avenue to limit parking in front of his establishment to 1 hour blocks. Apparently, there's, people park there all day, and it negatively affects his business, obviously. And in looking at Hamilton Avenue, in that area and in other areas not far away, parking is restricted in a number of different places to 1 hour blocks that are adjacent to commercial establishments. So we think that this is a reasonable request, and I don't think that it's going to negatively impact residential parking in that area, because there is a sufficient amount of parking along the northern side of Hamilton Avenue. And so again, we'd be looking to limit it to 1 hour parking Monday through Friday between 9 and 5 p.m. and Saturdays 9 to 12.
Thank you. Mark, do we have any similar requests from other business owners there on Ham Ave?
Not at the present time, no.
I'm surprised we haven't heard more. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
John Noel, the owner.
Hi, John.
It was erected in 1927, so it was an existing commercial building for many years. My family's owned it since 1948, and it's becoming a it's affecting businesses.
John, is it on the same side as Cox and Graziano? I'm trying to
No.
think.
The other side, down here, Booth Place on Crooked Hill.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're Speedy.
Yeah,
Speedy.
Speedy's Furniture.
Okay, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
There's 9 properties, 9 businesses on that street that have this sign, so.
Okay, thank you, John.
I just have a
Yeah.
picture of it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, every time I drive down, you know, you're on your building's on the right, I love to look at the windows, that you have in your,
Remember that from the early 70s, going there, my grandma lives across the street. Don?
Yes, I'd like to just mention about the Lafayette parking lot. The RMA, Environmental Association that meets at Presbyterian Church, we use that lot on Wednesday mornings. And we have a special permit to use that where it goes from 9 o'clock to about 12. And we've been able to do that the last few years. And I hate to lose that.
I don't think you will,
We
sir.
have no other place to park, and there's about 120 of us that actually show up every Wednesday morning. So if we could take that into consideration, we'd appreciate it.
Chief, you don't think
Well,
that's...
I didn't have any intentions to change that situation with the Retired Men's Association.
so the special permit would enable their attendees to park in the permitted spots as well, or how does the special permit work?
The special permit,
That's-
they park in metered spaces.
If you put this yellow sheet on
Which
our
is blocked out,
dashboard,
yeah.
And it gives us authorization just to park during those hours. If After 12 o'clock, guys have gotten tickets, and that's their own fault for staying there.
And-
So
and-
that's worth the time.
And this won't, you don't, in your opinion, this won't affect?
No.
It'll just be 20 more with the tags, and whoever gets a space gets a space, like if it's closer to the street or further in, right?
So the RMA permitted or authorized parkers, will they be able to park in these now merchant parking program
There should be
spots?
sufficient metered spaces available to accommodate that particular day as well.
Because Jill, it's a hang tag, so they park wherever. It's not like it's a designated parking space, right?
Correct, it's not.
Just like the Soundview lot isn't
Okay.
a designated
The-
one, it's first come, first served, getting the best spots.
Right.
So it's not going to be
What-
striped?
what it allows
won't
them
be
to do
striped
is-
like another, like other daily versus permitted spots, like the railroad lots, right? It's not going to be a striped lot.
Eventually, if this is approved, we would issue, if people, we're going to obviously promote this annual permit application process. And as people apply for permits and we issue permits, they'll be able to park in that particular lot. Eventually, what we'd like to do is have signs installed so that a certain section of the parking lot is
So-
reserved for permit parking only
So it would be essentially striped and restricted to the permit holders,
during those particular hours.
right? So I guess the question that Mr. Conway's raising is, the total number of spaces in that lot is, I do remember, I know it's on your parking plan, but I can't remember
Usually a
offhand.
number of spaces open, unless the town parks some of their trucks in there and other utility vehicles that they use. Sometimes they park them in there and move them a week.
I guess the question, Mr. Conway, is would the restriction of 20 spaces to the permit parking program impair, do you think there's enough free available parking?
20 probably wouldn't kill us.
Okay.
But it'll shove some people out onto Lafayette and more towards down near the hospital. And some of these guys live on the antique side.
So if if it ends up being an issue, I guess I will ask that you'll come back to the Board of Selectmen and,
Okay.
so that we can revisit it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Obviously,
Thank you.
we're certainly going to work with them as well, also, if it becomes an issue, we'll work for a resolution.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Don. Yes? Good morning.
I wonder if planning and zoning has interfaced with this, because the merchant, there are a lot of zoning regs on parking. Merchants gave up parking to make public lots, and in exchange, they got a waiver of parking. There are a whole lot of things that go on there. So, I don't know if they've been consulted with as a department to make sure that all of that is consistent. The other thing is that when I've gone to the RMA meeting, they have to park illegally because it's not that lot is completely filled, and then they're all over the place. So that Wednesday morning certainly is a mess. It's a mess. I was missing everything.
Thank you. Well, we've just heard from the chief that it shouldn't be a problem, and if it is, Don's going to come back and let us know about that. And as far as the merchants, any coordination with them on that?
No.
The lady's first point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Given that, if there is, so you haven't coordinated with planning and zoning? at
No,
all,
actually, I did not.
And typically with parking, have you coordinated, is that, I mean, I know it's evolving, right? Have they typically had comments on the parking issues for lots and things like that?
With planning and zoning? Not on this particular topic, no. This particular lot, no.
So not that I want to keep making our future meeting agendas longer, maybe it's worthy of a conversation to make sure they have there's no immediate timetable on this designation of the 20 spaces, other than it would be an improvement on the utilization, which we're all in favor of.
Okay.
Would the board entertain deferring a vote on this issue until our next Board of Selectmen meeting, which is at the end of January, so that we can just circle back with
Yep.
zoning?
I certainly would. We don't want to hold up the vote on John's property there and Pintail Lane. I think this is going to be okay, but certainly just to circle back and to make sure that we're crossed all our Ts and dotted our Is. I think I'm okay with coming back.
Okay.
If you just circle back with us on that.
I anticipate, looking at the charter, that there's many revisions that need to be made with regards to parking. So I expect to be coming to meetings frequently, so that won't be a problem.
And even if you want to come to the working sessions, you don't have to
Yeah.
wait for the Thursdays. If you want to come to a Monday to expedite, or, if it's more convenient for you.
Okay, thank you.
So can I make a motion?
You're going to need to make 3 separate motions then on this, one for each. Okay.
Okay. So, all right, is there a motion to accept the proposed charter and code change for Pintail Lane?
I motion.
Selectwoman Raven?
Second.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Is there a motion to accept the charter and code change for Hamilton Avenue?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so is there a motion to postpone the vote for the charter and code change on Lafayette pending coordination with the zoning and also with the merchants?
And I would just add maybe further conversation with the RMA to understand the usage, utilization.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Mark.
No worries.
Met the other day.
Terrific.
Welcome,
That's great to
Luann.
hear. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You guys are
Deputy
doing a
Chief.
good job. Okay. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Next up, a new business is the scenic road designation for the northern loop around Binney Park. Is Rita Baker and Candace Garthwaite here? No? Okay, we're going to circle back with them anyway. There was a, thank you. There was an issue with that. So we will be revisiting that probably at the next meeting. Next up is the last item on the new business, a proposed ordinance to create an energy management commission. Is the Environmental Affairs Director here? Yes. Patricia Sesto.
Hi. Good morning.
Morning, Pat.
So, back in 2017, the Conservation Commission, in understanding part of its charges to, construed within their charges to reduce energy consumption for various environmental purposes, they created an energy subcommittee of the commission, who then, we took an 18-month process and looked at the energy issues associated with the town of Greenwich. Prior to that, there had been some initiatives with CPACE, another community energy program that the town signed on to reduce the energy consumption by 20%. CPACE is a program which the town signed on to, which allows commercial properties to take loans and then have the town, through the taxing, as part of their tax bill, to pay off that loan. We've only had 2 people take us up on that opportunity. So initiatives were undertaken, but there's been a lack of consistency associated with those efforts, and that would consist of inconsistencies in the community as well as in our town buildings, be it Board of Ed or the Selectmen's buildings. Following that 18-month process of evaluating what's been done in the past, how we should go forward, it was very clear to the subcommittee of the Conservation Commission that this is a topic that very much goes beyond the boundaries of the charge of the Conservation Commission, goes well beyond environmental type issues, and is very much a fiscal issue as well. Add to that the technical nature of energy, whether we have solar or whether we have net metering. I mean, there's a whole host of topics that you can dive into and get swamped very quickly. So it was abundantly clear to this committee that having an energy commission, which would be dedicated to looking at energy issues within the town, be that the town hall, Board of Ed structures, or the community as a whole, who were knowledgeable with related issues to energy, that they be the ones that form this energy commission and lead the town into an energy savings program. As far as the committee is concerned, the charge that they had looked for the energy commission would be a short-term goal of a 20% reduction in energy consumption and a long-term goal of 40%. With the town having an annual energy bill of $6 million, saving us energy is saving us money. And the technical wisdom to get there surpasses me by a lot. The report of the Energy Committee came out last June. It was brought to the then sitting Board of Selectmen, who adopted that. We then moved forward to draw up an ordinance for an Energy Commission, and we've been working with law to get that into a final form. It has been submitted for RTM's consideration, and we are looking to have the Board of Selectmen also likewise endorse that ordinance and help carry us forward.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I'm going to have some questions here. I think as I speak to people around town, almost everybody's in favor of this, and most are really enthusiastic about it. But like with every good idea and concept comes lots of questions.
As they should.
Right off the bat, and you and I have spoken about this. One question was, is this going to cost money? Are we going to be looking at employees down the road and, mandates? Are we going to be saddled with there was a town in Washington who, I guess, outlawed natural gas, and it created a kind of a mess there, and legitimate questions. And I know you're going to hear some more when you go before some of these committees on the RTM. So I think maybe just to clear up a few of those
Absolutely. So
issues
the
for
structure
people.
of the commission, it would be comprised of 7 members from the community who the Board of Selectmen would put those people forward for nomination by the RTM. We also have provisions within the ordinance for 7 additional members, be first selectman or a designee, Board of Ed or designee, Ben Brannion's position or designee, Nathaniel Witherall designee. I'm going to escape the other 2. Board of Ed, I got. But there's going to be 7 other people who would be affected by the work of the commission. As we have it set up now, I'm sorry?
RTM and BET.
Thank you, RTM and BET. As we envision it, the ex officio members, those 7 additional ex officio members, would have voting privileges. The reason the committee had chosen to go with ex officio who vote versus, I think, probably the norm, which is ex officio who don't vote, is to address the concern, like Washington, that this commission is going to make decisions that would not necessarily be perceived as workable or draconian, or pick any adjective where somebody expresses fear. That having these people be voting participants, one, their participation rate would increase, their voice would be heard, and their vote would count. So that we would have a balance between the technical expertise and the town hall operating side to come together with the best decisions. As far as financing goes, I would expect, so the commission would operate through the office of the first selectman. They would have budget needs no different really than what we have now. Budget needs would be like we should have energy audits on our buildings. Now you can have an energy commission do that, or somebody else should be doing that, but it should be done regardless. So it will be an expense regardless of who it comes from. As far as staffing goes, we don't see staffing at this point. If down the road an energy commission can substantiate that if they had staff, that they could save the town more money, that would more than pay for their staff, well, let's have it. But that would be up to them to really justify. At this point, we're not looking to add staff to the town. It's not our vision.
Well, thank you. And I think the commission shows that by establishing a commission that we're serious about it. You will hear some people pushing back and saying, why don't you just have a committee and make it more flexible? And but I think this makes a little bit more of a statement. But you are going to hear that.
Oh, I expect so. Yes. The towns, there was 162 towns that signed on to that commitment to reduce their energy consumption by 20%. There were 28 who actually met the goal of reducing by 10 to 20%. Of that 28, 23 have energy commissions. We are not one of those 28. And I can say, going back to 2006, the disparate ways in which we've tried to attack this just have not worked. We have not achieved a single goal that we have set out to do in the past 13 years with regards to energy. In which I don't mean in any way to take away from what Board of Ed and Al Manelli and the facilities management, there definitely have been strides. We've got the LED lights going in. There's lots of things that have happened, but it's not been in a goal-oriented, measurable, tangible way that we can communicate.
Thank you. Lauren?
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate all the work that has gone into this and everybody that's participated first in the plan back in June and then putting together the commission. So some of the things that Fred mentioned were like kind of what leaped out at me, commission versus committee, making sure that folks within town hall had more of a say than the sort of technical experts. So maybe something to consider, and I kind of look at this as a first read because we're the new, board of selectmen. So I don't know if we're voting on this today, and I would imagine the RTM, because they just instituted something in December about the concept of a
Yes.
first read. I'm sure there's going to be something along those lines as well. But I thought about, do we need 7 experts in addition to 7 ex officios? So maybe, because that's 14, and if there was a tie, like who breaks the tie type thing. And then I also thought about being authorized to enter into contracts. So I understand that there isn't necessarily an employee, but maybe just a little bit more, I don't want to say meat, because that's not the right word, but that was a concern of mine, that the committee would be going into contracts, and what would that approval process look like? Because if we were only, as the Board of Selectmen, going to get an annual written report once a year, how would we know what, the group was doing?
So we see the annual report as the formal report back to this board, but I don't see that as the only communication. As the commission would be working out of the office of the first selectman, I would think there would be an ongoing relationship. It's the fiscal request would be going to the first selectman for inclusion in that office's budget, justifying those. That would all be just a normal relationship like any of our commissions have. So the report is just that formal piece to you three. It gets to go out into the community, and it holds that board accountable for getting some stuff done.
So just on the point raised by Ms. Raven, there's a provision in the ordinance that provides that any contracts to be entered into that are first approved by the Board of Selectmen and are subject to the town's purchasing. So there wouldn't be an incurrence of an obligation on the part of the commission that the Board of Selectmen hadn't first approved. In addition, right now, there is no funding request that I'm aware of, right, in the budget. So anything that would incur an obligation, whether it be operational or cost, would first have to come through and be approved initially by, if it were financial, not only the Board of Selectmen, but most likely the RTM as well, the RTM. So I do think there is a checks and balance. I hadn't focused on the 14 voting members. I'm sure there was some rationale behind having 14 voting members, but if I would be prepared to vote on this now. I really commend the work that you have done and your committee has done over the past 2 years. This is a highly technical area, maybe one that in-house we don't have the expertise to really make sure that the town acquires the best and most technologically forward programs and protocols, and we would be well advised to get outside advice from our very, very informed community on this. So I do hope that it goes forward at this board, whether today or at another date, and at the RTM as well. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you for the comments. And the whole goal of this is, environmentally based, but also to save money. So any costs that may come, with an audit, any other possible costs, hopefully will be more than offset by the savings. So that's the intent of this, and I do think we need to make a statement with the commission, allowing for the fact there may be some little tweaks here and there, and you're going to get some lots of suggestions probably in the coming weeks. But I'm prepared to go with this right now. So we have a motion to.
Did you want to defer to read? I wasn't sure whether you wanted it to be a first read or not. My
preference is that it's a first read. It's very new to me. If you're both prepared to vote for it, I think a 2-1 vote still makes it go forward. I'm not prepared to vote for it.
Well, we're trying to be accommodating of all of our board members. So certainly, if we put this off for a month, what is it?
So I think that will be fine. I start the RTM committee meetings next week, then the RTM on the 21st, which they have the first read obligation, so they don't meet in February, so I'm actually then into March. I would be pleased to be able to say that I've got the Board of Selectmen behind me when I start this process. But if I can't, and I can accurately state that it's being positively received and they're just additional considerations.
We could do it even more than, I mean, I could make a statement that the board is supportive of it, but in light of the fact that this came up
Yes.
recently about first reads, that we're respecting that process and just giving it, people a little bit more time, but we, fully supportive of the goals that are in
Thank
this
you.
commission and the work you've done.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm supportive of the solution. It's just the little tweaks, and it landed on our desk literally like 2 days ago. I think I saw it first in the RTM call, so that's how I knew about it, and then kind of came to us as Board of Selectmen. And now in the past 2 days, I've been getting a lot of phone calls and community input, so I just would like a little bit more time to digest that and make sure that it's something I can 100%, but I'm 99.9.
That's fine.
Terrific, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess, should we just actually entertain a motion to revisit this next? You don't even need?
You don't need to have that motion.
Okay. All right, so we'll just see.
Okay.
Well, anything we can do to help along the way, any
And
other questions?
I welcome all of the feedback that you're hearing from the community is really helpful for me to hear, so please share.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for your message. And
Okay. Thank you,
take all
Pat.
that consideration. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay.
Looks like John wants to say something.
Yes.
If I may,
Yeah.
could I give a plug to the RMA? One of the things that we pride ourselves on is the quality of our speakers. Yesterday, we had Selectmen and their speech was excellent. Very impressive.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, we appreciate all the work you've done, and wherever I go, I hear nothing but good things about what you do. So, thank you. So it's an honor. It's honor to work with you and to have you here with us. Thanks, Pat. Thank you, John. Okay, we now have appointments and nominations, so we're going to go into executive session. Is there a motion?
I motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Second.
Okay. See you all later. Thank you so much. We did. Excuse me. Is John coming back in? John, do you want to come back?
No, he doesn't need to.
Okay. So we have two items to vote on, and we'll take up the first, the latter, which is the case that Amina brought about the Harbor Management Commission. And is there a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote in the affirmative to allow our town law department to either put forward a amicus brief or a filing on behalf of the Harbor Management Committee's recommendations to DEEP.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to restate that, please?
Okay, hopefully I get it all right this time. So I'd like to put forward a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the request for the town attorney's office to put forward at their recommendation, they're going to go through the pros and cons, either an amicus brief or a intervention that would address the issue and represent the Harbor Master Commission's recommendation to DEEP. So they would be filing this on behalf of both the Harbor Management Commission and the town, and the intervention would be on the lawsuit being filed from the plaintiff Susan Cohen owner of property 7 Berkeley Lane, and the defendant Mark and Marty Marachi, owners of 15 Berkeley Lane and D.
Okay. I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I would just ask that the law department keep us apprised as to which action you decide to take.
Thank you. That would be very
Thank you,
helpful.
Amina.
Thanks, Amina.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
And next time I'll have the lawyer read the motion.
Thank you. Next on the agenda to vote for a vote is the nomination of John Toner to serve as a member of the Selectmen's Nomination Advisory Committee, SNAC. Is there a motion to accept that nomination?
So moved.
Seconds.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'd just like to note that Mr. Toner, for the minutes, that Mr. Toner has a long history of volunteering in town with an extensive network of connections, and that he brings all of that and his continued desire to serve to this committee, and that he recognized the need to ensure that the SNAC represent both geographic and all the variety of diversity that we have in town in making their nominations, and we'll be working to further that goal.
And I will add that he, in addition to all that, which was well put, that he was this board's liaison to SNAC, so he's very familiar with it, as well as being a very familiar face in the town of Greenwich, and somebody that we not only support but admire, and wish him well, and also to again congratulate him on being the Grand Marshal of this year's St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yes. Congratulations.
With that, is there a motion to?
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.